should be live. Should be, yes. I think so. Anyway, just a little bit of bookkeeping, some kind of thing like that anyway. Be here in a moment. Oh, it has the same icon. Strange. Anyway, it's not supposed to be the same icon. I guess you have to change that too. Anyway, I don't hear any sound. What the hell's wrong? I guess you have to. You have to change that too. You can barely hear me, but okay. I guess it's okay. So yeah, chat pop out and such. Okay, I think I've done what I had to do. Yeah, well, what the hell icon is that up there? Oh, right, yeah, that's the Dispar video. I will save that for later. I'll do my part first, and then his part, and such. So I get rid of that. All right. So, the good news is, I think I actually found a way to fix the drag simulation. So, because I wasn't accounting for, I could do it real quick. You know, there's a phase of one beam of light ends up having a phase, and the problem is that when you're being exposed to energy in the universe, every time you move, new vectors are hitting you. It's always coming from some different little surface, some different thing, and so the phases are constantly being readjusted. So the reason why I was getting redshift at the surface of the object getting pushed is because it's one standard phase. It's just one beam of photon, one source. And that was I think, an error to have the simulation that narrow. And if you mix the phases, then that problem should evaporate, I think. So we'll find out. But that would be very nice. Yeah. So, you know, timing is everything. And so, yes, I probably, if I waited 2 days to publish, then I would have realized I could have fixed it, and then I wouldn't have to. But that's science, you know, it's Draft Science was the name of the channel, because, yes, it's, you know, work in progress. It's happening as you're watching. Science is happening. So anyway, and the gravity simulation is almost ready, and you know, it's hard to make it all so you can see exactly why it's happening, but I mean, it's, you know, it's in the simulation, but, you know. Anyway, all right, so I'm just going to go over some redundant things because they keep ignoring the arguments that are being made, and they're good arguments. So, I mean, the best argument I had recently was the simple idea that if you're in space and I make a device that has 3 springs on it and 3 some sort of weighted ball, and we just say this is 100 pounds and the balls are 1 pound, it doesn't matter, or they could be 10 pounds, doesn't matter. And what you're basically going to do is just a Newtonian experiment. You're going to launch one, okay, and you have a mass, an MV, that'll be ended up going this way, and you're going to end up with the same MV in this object, and you'll end up with, you know, 1 unit of velocity. So, and so then if you launch 2, okay, then you're going to get twice the MV, and you're going to end up with 2 units of velocity. And then if you launch all 3, you'll get, you know, 3 units of MV leaving. You'll end up with the same 3 units of MV on the other side, obeying Newton's third law, and you'll have 3 times the velocity. Now, their theory, you know, the 1/2, you know, mv squared, requires you to believe that to get this 3 velocity, I had to do 9 times the energy or force. And so clearly it's only 1 unit of force here, 1 unit of force to compress this spring, 1 unit of compress this spring. So it's 3 units of force. Can't possibly be 9 units of force. So I can't make free energy this way. So obviously I didn't make free energy is a simple answer, right? momentum makes perfect sense. So everything here just makes perfect sense in terms of just understanding the universe as being transfers of mv. I'm shooting small objects with a high velocity. Okay, so I've got the, small m and a big V, and I'm going to end up with a big object, okay, a big M, okay, with a smaller V, and those things are going to equal each other, and that's all Newtonian physics. So 350 years ago, this all made sense to everybody. Certainly makes sense to me. And then Leibniz proposed this nonsense, and it has all these implications. It breaks the law of the lever. It, destroys this simple logic. And we're supposed to believe that somehow, by doing 3 units of work, I create 9 units of work. This going 3 times the velocity, this equation basically says that this has 9 units of work energy in it. And clearly, I only put in 3 units. So they have to explain, the people who are going to say I am absolutely wrong, or I'm silly, or I'm a pseudoscientist, or I'm anti-science. All they have to do is explain where I made a mistake in the logic here somewhere. All they have to explain is that it doesn't travel 3 times the velocity. That it's so I don't know what it would be, right? 1.5, some other kind of silly number for the squared function to work. It's got to be a very small amount of velocity that this object gets, and we know that's not what happens because Newton's third law is true. For me to have an equal amount of momentum going that way as going that way, it can't be anything else but 3 times the velocity. It's the only way to have the same momentum. So there's no way. The only way you can look at this, what's on here, the only thing you can find that's wrong is this. This is the thing that shouldn't be here. That breaks the whole thing. It makes a mess out of something very logical. This 9 here, this nonsense. This all works. Makes perfect sense. Momentum works. It always works. If you look for the truth, you'll see that it always works. If you recognize that plastic cars with little tiny metal wheels, that's sort of a, cheating, because your wheels and axles will store an awful lot of energy. And so you won't see it in a linear motion. Little cheats like that. So they've done all these little contrived experiments, but they're all contrived. And they're contrived for the purpose of trying to shore up a really bad theory. So this is what they have to answer. And they won't answer my direct statements. Instead, they'll try to distract the subject by, talking about biological muscles or something. Instead of this obvious in space, all the outside variables there's no outside variables. There's nothing in the way. It's just a pure statement. Just you can't miss it. Now the other one, I haven't seen anything from them that would indicate they have some answer, counter argument to make, is the simple idea of rolling something on a surface. So it's just the same mass, one velocity and 2 velocity. And the fact is the 2 velocity you'll roll 4 times the distance. It's a fact, at least. Yeah. And as I've pointed out, is you can see something, that's just glaringly obvious that there's a point where this has to go half the speed, okay, 1v, and that has to be here, okay, 3/4 of the way down the track, it's going to be going half the original velocity. And so right there you can, that's sort of an indication that something's wrong. This experiment's going to be exactly the same as this. So whatever, we know that 1 velocity loses all of its energy to friction. That's the only place you can lose it. This experiment is basically just saying, let's pull all the energy out of the moving object. So it's just using friction to pull all the energy out, all of its momentum, to take it. So instead of colliding it with something, you're just slowly wearing it down, little tiny collisions. But it's a very good test. So they think that this has 4 times the energy because it went 4 times the distance. But the simple truth is that we know this amount of friction is that's half the energy right there. I mean, it's half the speed. So the other half is here. And the logic is kind of obvious that the force of gravity is what's creating the friction. I mean, no one can deny that the only reason why this ball is losing its energy to the surface is because of gravity. I mean, if I do the experiment in space, then there's no pressure pushing the ball into the surface. It won't create any friction. If I have a piece of sandpaper and I go like this, I'm not going to abrade my hand. I'm not going to hurt it at all. So just rubbing against or just being next to a surface isn't enough. You need to have some kind of contact with the surface, even electrostatic contact, some kind of contact, or you can't lose your energy to it. And so the simple truth is that there's a unit of heat going to be created here, or particles moving, okay, mv lost. And this mv lost here, in the form of probably heat, is going to be exactly equal to the amount lost here. And that makes perfect sense. Half your velocity, half your energy, half your momentum, it all adds up again. It makes perfect sense that this is only going to be 2 units of heat here, 1 unit of heat here. This is going to take twice the time. So this took 1 unit of time. This took 1 unit of time. So you know it's 2 units of time, so that all adds up to twice the velocity, twice the time. I mean, it all makes sense. So, you know, there's no need for 1/2 mv squared in here anyway. There's no need for you to think that this sucked 4 times the, 3 units of energy came out of the object here. It didn't. It's not 3 units of energy. It's only 1. It's only 1 unit of heat, only 1 unit of friction, because per inch there was less pressure pushing down on the object. The pressure on the object here is twice as much as the pressure on the object that's going twice as fast. The amount of weight that the scale would read, if you could put a scale under here and measure how much weight per inch, this is going to weigh twice as much as this. So it's obvious that it's not pushing into the sandpaper, it's not losing as much energy, it's not abrading as much, it's not having as much contact, so it's losing less energy to the surface. So it's sort of an obvious proof that this 4 is a deception. There's no 4 times the energy to go 4 times the distance, because your speed means there was less friction, and it means it's pulling the energy out unevenly. It pulls very little in the beginning, and as you slow down, it pulls more and more. And we see that in our own experience. The slower something is sliding or pushing, the harder it is to push, and the faster you can get it going, the faster, the easier it is, the less friction there is, the less work you have to do to move it. You all experience that just pushing furniture around. You can notice that the faster you get it going, the less energy you have to use to move it. So it's pretty clear. So just their obligation to show how I said something wrong. Now this relates directly to the thin ice kind of argument, that if you want to get across thin ice, if you're going, the high velocity versus the slow velocity, obviously the faster the velocity, the less pressure on the ice, the less likely you fall through it. So it's the observation is confirmed by other experiments that demonstrate that this is a real thing, that friction is variable and it's completely proportional, inversely proportional to speed. The higher your speed, the lower your friction. There's, reasonable people shouldn't be saying, that's preposterous nonsense. No, that's not nonsense. Those are all perfectly legitimate, reasonable arguments, and they need to be countered in some kind of rational way, not with a bunch of just useless, insulting rhetoric. You got to do better than insulting rhetoric to undo the clarity of that. So another really clear example, which I've done literally hundreds of times now, okay, is what started all of this. So this was Leibniz's contention. You take a 4 mass and you take a 1 mass, and you drop them from these different distances. So it's 4 units of distance that this one will fall. And their argument is that somehow this is the same amount of energy. Now you know the MV is going to be twice as much here. It's going to be 4 times 1, and this one's going to be 1 times 2. Yeah, twice the velocity, sorry. But this will only be twice the velocity, okay? And it'll be going 9.8 here, will be the velocity, and it's going to be 19.6 here, okay? So we know that's the truth. We know also that it's 2 units of time to do this, and it's 1 unit of time to do this. So we know that's true also. So, you know, with those facts alone, you could deduce, well, yeah, it's only 2 units of time that was in gravity. Gravity only gave it twice the velocity, so that verifies that point. Clearly, the momentums don't match, and how could you argue that 2 things with the same momentum aren't going to apply the same pressure or weight? I mean, where is that demonstrated in physics, where you can have 2 things with different momentums create a different, let's say, a different amount of pushing power or something else? Now, obviously, if you make the difference in their momentum huge, you know, 1,000 to 1 difference in terms of the, you know, mass, you know, giant mass, small v, giant v, small, tiny mass, bullet and recoiling gun, for example, well, yeah, you'll see some differences in how they'll affect surfaces when they hit them. You know, the bullet's more likely to be able to break and fracture things and to create high pressures that can explode things. And the recoiling gun's not going to be able to create any of those high pressures, because it's going to apply the pressure over a much longer period of time. It's not going to apply it over a tiny fraction of a second. And so that can be understood too. It's, you know, but anyway, the point is clearly it's not the same momentum. It can't be the same capacity to move things. And everything adds up. 2 units of time, 2 units of velocity. It's going to weigh twice, you know, only 2 units, and this is going to weigh 4 units. Just no way to get around it. And it's understood as the same mechanism. This experiment here, in terms of the 9.8, is going to be exactly the same speed that they're going to acquire. So you know it's going half the speed here. Right here is half the speed. So just like the rolling argument, you're going half the speed, you know, 1/4, or, you know, 3/4 from the target. And that this whole part here is where you're going very fast, okay? And you could also understand that, well, if I'm going 9.8, I don't need a force to do these 2 units of distance. These 2 units of distance will be accomplished with the velocity you already have. So if you turn the gravity off, you'd still get the 9.8 here. You'd still get all of this distance for free in the next second. And all you're really adding is this. Again, you're just adding the same thing you added up here. A small amount of distance and another 9.8 in velocity. So it's easily understood. Now, Leibniz just said these 2 things are equal. He just said 4 pounds dropped 1 foot is the same as 1 pound dropped 4 feet. He just said it, didn't prove it with any experiment. And we still don't have any clinical experiment done by any kind of physicist or scientist, you know, with, you know, careful materials and quality measuring devices or any of that stuff. So they haven't even bothered to test it, you know, and it's 350 years later. So that's pretty much something you could just call a fable. So fables are things where you don't bother testing because it just isn't true. It's just a story they tell. And it doesn't have anything to do with reality. So those 3 pieces of evidence should be enough for a reasonable person to say, yes, I get it. There's no room for this 1/2 mv squared. It doesn't fit. Doesn't make any sense. You know, twice the speed is not 4 times the energy. 3 times the speed is not 9 times the energy. 4 times the speed is not 16 times the energy. It doesn't take 25 times more fuel to go 5 times as fast. It doesn't. It doesn't happen, and you know it. So why do I have to keep making these arguments to human beings? Why do they show so little integrity and not just concede? Yes, it makes no sense to argue that this kinetic energy thing is real, because it doesn't do anything real. In all the real cases where you really look for it, you won't be able to capture it. You won't be able to gain anything from it. A rocket will never get the kinetic energy of the thrust. So whatever the thrust is, 3 balls on springs or a huge giant flame, it will only collect the momentum in that flame. It will never collect the kinetic energy of it. So that should be just a gigantic giveaway that it's a fable. It's nonsense. It's not the truth. It's not science. It's religion now, because if you take a fable and force it to be a truth, then that's pretty much religion. So I mean, it's a legitimate argument to make that yes, science is just, physics has just become a religion. They just don't care that there's no continuity and no consistency with easily constructed experiments. And you could argue again, like the editing experiment, doing the experiment where you see light bent by the gravity of the sun. We've had 50, 60 years now in space, and we're supposed to believe they've never attempted the experiment when it takes 5 minutes. All you need is a decent camera to do it, and you don't need an eclipse. And so why has it never been attempted? I mean, there's just no good answer to that question. There's no good answer. So I'll never hear the answer because there's no good answer. All right, so that's the beginning. And so then we'll play. I have not previewed the video, but whatever. We'll see what kind of crap, these tacky, shit talker and evil liars, frankly. And that's all it is. I mean, he's starting the video with a clip from me again, and clearly this subject was where he just lied and said my theory predicted something it never predicted. I never said what he said. He claimed I was proposing. It's never any part of anything I stated. I've never talked about how you can store energy and I can hold this battery up and it's storing energy and it's collecting tons and tons of joules of energy every second. It's getting more and more. No, it's obviously going right through my hand and into the ground. I just gained weight by holding the battery. I could get on a scale and you could read its weight. How could the force of the battery be being storing if the weight is being registered on the scale? If you're registering its weight on the scale, it means that the force of the battery is going into the scale. Can't be stored in the battery. So just, they're terrible lies. They're just terrible liars. So leave us play this crap. All right, where do I want to put everything here? I guess that'll do. Well, I can move that over there. Maybe I'll use this button so it doesn't...
Hold an object...
So this will be a lie. Obviously, my stupid model doesn't predict that at all. My model says if you're holding the weight, the pressure is going right into your feet, into the ground again. So you've just added a mass to your mass, and now your mass is adding more weight to the ground. But obviously, whatever your skeleton isn't supporting, you have to support by other means, and that means you're going to burn a lot of energy. The longer you hold that box, the more calories you're going to have to consume. Right. So it's I'm just saying, his premise was a complete lie. And now he's going to say that somehow something I just said there was inaccurate. That's exactly the truth, and it's you who claimed something else was true, and so why is there an argument? Absolute fact.
And again, how many fucking times do we have to repeat this to you that
We who? Who's the we? And what are you going to repeat? You made a false accusation. I defended myself accurately against it. Period. You lied, asshole, and I destroyed your lie.
yes, of course, your body consumes more calories when holding a weight?
Well, that's a giveaway. That's called doing work. And you wouldn't have to do work, okay, if there wasn't a force of gravity constantly pushing the object. So the reason why you have to do work is because the object does weigh something, and it weighs something because it's acquired momentum, and you have to apply a counter momentum to keep it where it is. Period. You have to apply a counter force. That's what is proven by the experiment.
Nobody denies that, Gary.
So again, let's keep lying. Okay, we're not. What are you denying? You're denying that somehow your body contrives a huge waste of energy because the object doesn't really require more work to hold. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, all of that doesn't require any more work by your philosophy. So go ahead and explain how it's possible that you could mess it up so badly. How could you make it into, how could you burn millions of calories if it's not more work?
Again, nobody denies that, Gary. Nobody denies that, Gary.
There's no point. You're the one who just lied. I defended myself against your fucking lie, and then you're saying you don't deny something. I mean, this is fucking retarded. You're so far off the subject, you piece of shit.
Nobody denies that, Gary. Do you get it now? How many times do we have to
Oh, go fuck yourself till good and dead. You're such a piece of human garbage.
repeat this? When burning calories because of holding a weight, that's your own metabolic energy being used, Gary.
It doesn't matter what you're using. The point is why are you having to use it? Well, you're using it because the weight doesn't happen once. It happens every second. More weight, more weight, more weight, more weight.
The energy is burned inside your body as heat. It's not stored in the weight that you're holding.
Again, never said it's stored in anything. I just debunked any idea that it's stored because the fucking ground is feeling the goddamn extra weight. I pick up the battery, the ground is feeling it on my feet. I said this. The scale will read the fucking weight, you fucking liar. I can't believe he's doubling down on a fucking lie. God, what a piece of scum. God, you just be so splendid if you got what you deserve, you lying scum. We already have. You're ugly as fuck.
The weight itself that you're holding is not gaining energy. You're not adding...
So again, this is just idiotic. Obviously, every fucking second it's gaining energy and it's going right into my goddamn fingers and right into my arm and right down my fucking spine and right into the goddamn ground. That's what it's doing every fucking second. 9.8 meters per second per 1 second. Every fucking second. 2 seconds in the gravity and free fall, you have 19.6 in velocity because you got 2 units of that fucking force. I can't believe this person is such a scum.
More mechanical work to the weight, and that's the fucking point. It's about the mechanical energy of the weight itself.
So this is just the mechanical energy of the weight itself. What the fuck is that? That isn't even a statement. This is obviously not mechanical energy. It's directly from gravity right into the object every second. There's no gears. There's no mechanism. There's nothing in the way. There's just the plain old fact that the goddamn gravitational force is giving the fucking object momentum. And as soon as you let go of it, you're going to see that happening. And the fact is you're applying a counter momentum to keep it in that one place. And without the counter momentum, it's going to fall. Fact. You lying sack of shit.
If a force doesn't move something through distance, it doesn't do mechanical work on that thing.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. So what he's saying is, okay, is that anything that oscillates beyond your perception, okay, isn't, I guess we don't need his video in here, right? We don't, there's no point. There's no fucking images. There's nothing. So why let it distract? How come it didn't shrink? It's the wrong object somehow. Surprised me. All right. You know, if anything oscillates beyond our perception, that is, it doesn't move, that means it didn't move. That's stupid on its face. But the whole idea that somehow holding something, you can understand that it's not a constant force, constant force, constant force, constant force. Every second, 9.8 meters of pressure, velocity, weight. It's constant. I put it on the scale. The scale doesn't just bounce back up again, right? The scale says, no, the weight's constant because I can't go back up. Okay, it just continues to weigh, it continues to weigh, it continues to apply a pressure. It maintains the pressure, it keeps pushing, it keeps pushing, it keeps pushing. You know, you're such a fucking liar.
But spending more time feeling the force increases the cost for your muscles or machines. If the weight is...
So it's just baby talk, right? So somehow you're, even though you're not doing any work, you're somehow doing a whole bunch of work. So it's just ridiculous. Obviously, you're doing a lot of work because you have to fight the gravity. The gravity is every second. You have to apply the counterforce every second. Absolute fact. Obviously, these people don't know anything about physics.
Held by a robot, for example. But it doesn't make the object itself gain more mechanical energy.
It's gaining energy every second. It is acquiring the capacity to create weight. Its weight is being regenerated every second, every second, every second, constantly regenerating a downward force. And you have to constantly regenerate a positive upward force against that force. And if you don't constantly apply it and keep regenerating that force, then it will fall. Fact. If you let it go, it falls and you don't do any work anymore. Fact.
Shit for brains.
Certain amount of distance from the ground, that object will gain energy over time. Even when you keep that object only 1 centimeter off the ground, if you keep it there for 1 million years, it will have accumulated so much energy.
So somehow he's saying the energy is stored in the object. Obviously the gravity is not stored in the object. It goes right into the ground. So again, ludicrous. He's saying if I take this object and I put it on top of my head, okay, that somehow it's... How can he keep arguing something that was just an idiotic lie, accusation, straw man he made, that somehow my theory says that when it's on top of my head, it's storing energy, when I clearly pointed out I weigh more? How am I storing the energy if it's going into the ground? I can't store it if it's going into the ground. Now collecting, 9.8 meters of extra force, and it's storing it. And so it's now in 2 seconds, it's got 19. The scale can only store the first unit of energy. The first unit's the one it stores. That's all it stores, is the first 9.8 store, is you don't feel the full weight of the object when you put it on. Now it acquires its full weight, and it just stays there. But it can only stay there because there's a constant resupply. There has to be a constant, continual pushing down for it to be maintained. So that's a fact. Nothing stores the energy, especially if the ground is reading a weight. If the ground says there's a weight hitting it, then you're not storing the energy in the object. God damn, what an asshole. 0.6, and it keeps collecting and collecting more and more some kind of energy, when obviously the energy is going right through me into the ground. I've increased my weight. The pressure is going into the ground. It's not staying in the fucking object. So again, just a complete straw man argument. Complete nonsense argument.
All right, so hypothetically speaking, if an object wasn't supported...
There's nothing to argue here. It's an idiotic, ludicrous idea that when something's falling, it's storing the energy. When it's allowed to hold it and keep it, as soon as something touches it, it's going to drain the energy out. That's called friction. Any contact will take its energy. Just like if something has a charge on it and I touch it, I'm going to drain its charge. I mean, it's just idiotic. I shouldn't have to have this argument. It's so stupid. This is a terrible waste of time.
...by anything at all. So let's imagine an object floating in midair, not supported by anything such that the energy can't be transmitted through the supported materials. but gravity's still acting on that object.
Then it falls, moron.
Then according to you, does the object gain more and more energy over time?
Well, of course, because nothing's draining it, you fucking idiot. So it falls, and as it's falling, it gains velocity, which is momentum. It collects more and more force, and that's why when it hits the ground, it can explode the ground, because it collected a whole bunch of force, because nothing was draining it, you fucking idiot. Oh, this is so stupid. I keep saying I shouldn't respond. This is such a live video. This argument is inanely off the subject.
Does that mean that the object over time will start to heat up more and more, eventually turning into a molten piece of lava?
So you're saying, does velocity cause objects, at higher and higher velocity to become less and less stable? I could argue that probably. I mean, they were a little bit afraid. The probe they sent to Pluto, they were a little bit afraid because of the high velocity that something would dysfunction. So yeah, it's a real thing. But whatever. I mean, obviously you can only create heat when there is an exchange. You're not exchanging, so you can't be heating anything. You're storing the energy as motion of yourself, not of motion of a plasma or something. You're not moving something else. Your little atoms aren't spinning. You're not doing something to generate any heat.
Atoms inside that object become so extremely hot that it will...
Oh, this is... I should just stop playing the video, right? This is too stupid. There's nothing... I've never suggested any of this stuff. So now you're saying somehow I've somewhere said that if an object in a meteor is falling towards Earth, it gains heat from gravity moving through the gravity, collecting gravity or collecting a little tiny bit of extra momentum. The extra, it's going 20,000 miles an hour. It gains 19 miles an hour. So now it's going 20,019. And it somehow that made it hot? No, that isn't what made it hot, moron. Oh, such a lie.
Turn into a bright, shining source of light? Now, I know this is an impossible experiment because an object always needs to be supported by something else in order to lift it from the ground. But this is just a thought experiment.
It's an idiotic. It has nothing to do with the subject, and it certainly has nothing to do with anything I've suggested. So this is just such a maliciously sick and stupid lie.
I mean, your formula is energy equals mgt. So a mass being exposed to gravity gains more and more energy over time.
Right, and while it's moving, okay? It can't just sit there in space, you fucking idiot. It's moving. That's the energy. The MV part, the V part, the velocity part is the storage, you moron. The V has to go up for it to be storing any energy. It can't store energy if it doesn't have any V, fucker.
So when a mass is floating in midair, not supported by anything, the mass itself will gain energy.
Okay, there, we're done. Yes, fuck this. Oh, god damn. When did I suggest anything could just be supported in midair while it's being pushed by gravity? When did I suggest anything like that was something to even consider? I mean, fuck you. Too ridiculous. I do not have to respond to gibberish this fucking irrelevant. I mean, the dumbest video you've ever made, you piece of ugly scum. So he won't address my actual argument. So obviously in the very video he's playing, I drew shit on the board, drew all this stuff, paint spray, talked about lots of things. He evades all the arguments, the relevant ones. And what is he playing with? He states a lie. I defend myself against the lie, and he continues to talk about it as if there's something here besides a grotesque and ugly lie. I mean, it's just so disgusting. Ugh. God, human beings. They will never show us that it takes 25 times the fuel to spin a motor 5 times as fast. They'll never draw it. They'll never indicate in any way how it's even possible. Kinetic energy is not conserved, and they will never truly show us any drawings to explain the physics. They won't respond to the actual argument that the evidence doesn't confirm the theory in in all of the cases almost. Again, they're asserting that the law of the lever doesn't work, which is, that is so preposterously silly. So to force their silly theory to be respectable, they're denying something that's 2,000-year-old proven theory, okay, of a rational universe where by the law of the lever, twice the distance, I put a 1 mass there and I have a 2 mass here. All right, 1 unit of distance, and those two things are equal, and this will move twice the velocity, and this will move 1 unit of velocity, and they'll have the same momentum. And they're saying, well, that can't happen because by their theory, this has 4 times the energy. Well, twice the energy, sorry. And obviously it can't have twice the energy if this is a perfect balance. If you have it balanced, then it just stays perfectly balanced, and you put energy in, it oscillates perfectly. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense that it has 4 times the energy, but that's their claim. And they'll take their claim so far as to say somehow this won't happen, that if I put this object in with 1 velocity, this 1 mass won't leave with 2 velocity, that it can only leave with 1.54 the velocity. So it just breaks all continuity, because we know that doesn't happen in the balance. Can't do that. And they don't have any evidence of this experiment where they put the 1 mass in at 1 velocity and the 2 mass, and it only comes up with a 1.4. They have no evidence that happens. And if you reverse it, which you should be able to do, they're proposing that I can take a 1 mass going 1.4, and I can hit that part of the lever with it. Here's my fulcrum. And that the 2 mass here will leave with 1 velocity. So I have a 2 mass, okay, with 1 v leaving. And I have a 1 mass with 1.4, which means free energy, which means I'm actually going to create free momentum. I have less momentum here. I only have 1.4 momentum, and I'm going to have 2 momentum here. So I'm going to take a 1.4 momentum, and I'm going to make 2 momentum, free momentum. And obviously I could do this at bigger and bigger distances and create even larger differentials and more free momentum. So they believe you can make free momentum, free weight. You can make something weigh without making it move, without putting any energy into the required amount of energy in to make it move. I mean, it's just so idiotic. That's what they're actually proposing. That's their actual statement. They believe that actually happens. You can make free momentum. I mean, it's that bad. And here I have to argue this shit. And I have to argue it in this framework where they're so arrogant that they think there's evidence supporting their theory. Where's the evidence? And we've already debunked the evidence. It doesn't exist. That's the simple truth of it. The only way they can contrive the evidence is in little fake air track experiments, with clay on them, or they can do some little fake experiment with their little carts that have the metal wheels. But that's it. They don't have any real world experiment. And again, the simplest one was the Mythbusters. They crashed the car at 50 miles an hour, then crashed the car at 100 miles an hour. Did it crush 4 times as much? Nope, just twice. Exactly twice, frankly. That it's not a statement in physics. Well, you gotta come. You can't type more of a sentence than that. It's not a statement in physics. That's it. Not a statement in physics. What the fuck could that possibly mean? What is that? It's not a question. It's not a statement. It's just gibberish. Everything's a typo with you people. Why do you bother with this chat thing when every fucking thing you type is a fucking typo? That is not a statement in physics. What isn't, you fuck? What isn't? I can, you're all math geeks. You're supposed to be anyway. What, you think somebody's not smart enough to read your own formula? I mean, the only reason why something's not a statement in physics is because you have no explanation for the fact that you just claim something that can't possibly be true, and it has these implications. But I mean, you can't read 1/2 mv squared any other way than to recognize you have to believe it takes 25 times the fuel, okay, to create 5 times the velocity. It's built into this formula, you motherfucker. Okay, there's no way to have this formula and say it's accurate in the truth without believing that, because you also believe that 5 times the velocity, 5x the velocity equals 25 times the fucking energy. That's what you believe. That's what the formula says, you fucking idiot. You're a liar. Okay, we've already been over this, all right? There's 100 videos titled Steve Mold. You don't provide any evidence. You're saying, I don't know how levers work according to physics. How do they work according to physics, you motherfucker? Go watch the fucking Steve Mold video where he claims exactly what I stated, you fucking liar. So type another fucking lie and I'll just block you, okay? Because I really don't have an obligation to respond to fucking liars. Shit. I think you said it before that it's all push. Duh, fuck. Not pull. Does that include gravity as well? Duh! Oh, Jesus Christ. You sit here and just marvel at how... Okay, you haven't watched any of my videos, so you have watched nothing, right? But I mean, obviously, gravity, I'm claiming quite obviously that the energy comes from you're standing on the earth, right? The energy from space gets to you right now, okay? And the energy coming from that's going to hit your feet has to go through the earth. And guess what? It doesn't get to you now, okay? It gets to you sometime later. If I turn the gravity off right now, what do you think the earth is going to do? Do you think the earth is just going to sit there and say, oh, everything's just fine? I mean, it's got 4,000 degrees centigrade heat inside of it. It's got insane pressures inside of it, all created by gravity, all created by the weight of this pen. My body is 100 joules of fucking energy going into the earth every fucking second. Okay, I mean, weight is a real thing causing real pressure on the surface of the earth. So you don't understand that that's storing energy? Well, where the fuck did it get the energy from? Well, it had to get it from the goddamn force pushing stuff into the earth, you retard. That's where it got it from. Oh, goddamn. No, he don't claim that. No, he don't claim that. Well, you're done. You're just too stupid. I mean, I really don't have to deal with assholes making lie statements. He said it right in the video, fucker. There's no doubt about it. Steve Mold claimed the law of the lever doesn't fucking work. It doesn't happen. The 2 mass goes in and the 1 mass leaves at 1.4. That's what he said, fucker. Absolute fucking fact. Lying piece of shit. Oof, scumbags. All right, scales clearly work. Okay, yes. They have been very reliable, and I've been using them for years at work. I weigh a mass, and it gives me a constant reading because the mass is constantly applying work. Well, the force is constantly putting it into the mass, and because the scale is touching the mass, the scale is now feeling the pressure. And so, yes, it's measuring the constant differential, the constant reapplication. If you don't keep applying the force, the scale will just bounce back up. It's a spring. The spring is elastic. Well, why can't the spring just push it back up? Well, because the pressure is constant. Jesus, humans are just such lying, scummy pieces of crap. There's no defense for this. Your response should be, oh, well, the physicists should deal with this because these are real fucking doubtable questions raised. You know, it's quite doubtable that 5 times the velocity produces 25 times the energy. It's quite doubtable. And the fact that turbines can't do that. I spin a turbine twice as fast. I'm not going to get 25 times the electricity. I'm going to get 5 times the electricity. I mean, the formula clearly doesn't work. It fails every fucking experiment. And I just described a few in this video, but I didn't even go through all the others, like the ballistic pendulum, like gears, like hydraulics, like a water hose. It fails every fucking goddamn time. Do you really think that you can just turn the nozzle on a water hose and create free energy? Half the water, twice the velocity, all of a sudden have 4 times the energy? Do you really think that's possible? Well, twice the energy. Shit. But you got to defend the religion. Why are you defending religion? It's a dogmatic pile of shit invented by a religious kook, defended by another religious kook, essentially. Madame Charlotte was a little bit of a crystal rubber, okay, a free willer. Not a great scientist, frankly. Why do you believe this crap? Have you really been shown anything? Do you really think denting clay with round objects is a valid experiment? Do you really think rolling things on a surface is, hey, 4 times the distance, let's just turn our brains off? We'll just see the 4 times the distance and say that's the answer. We won't pay any attention to some idea that, oh yeah, when you move things really fast, there's less friction. Because obviously things weigh less. The faster I move something, the less it weighs per inch. Duh. If it covers 40 feet in 1 second, or it covers 1 foot in 1 second, you got to understand that all the weight goes on that 1 foot in one case, and all of the weight is spread over that huge 40 feet in the other case. You can't figure that the fuck out. You can't be honest enough to say, yeah, that's how it works. Friction is variable, completely dependent on velocity when it's gravitational friction. Oh, it's just amazing what lying scum you people are. So the Despard video, he still hasn't put the links on his ballistic pendulum video, right? So the 2 links he has are broken. And one of them is from the USDA, I mean the Department of Agriculture. So do you think the Department of Agriculture did a really great ballistic pendulum experiment? I have my fucking doubts. Yeah. So who the fuck knows what that stupid link is? I mean, these people are so dishonest. You people. Humans. I mean, I wish there were aliens I could go testify against you at the human trial. You know, I just wish I could just point out what lying scum you are, and the aliens, yes, go ahead, eat them. Doesn't matter what you do to them, because they deserve it. They hate intelligence. They hate neurons. They hate having brains. They don't want to use one reasonably and rationally. They just want to sit in their fucking own poo, you know, and squeeze it all day. Disgusting. Anyway, oh, it's just so irritating. I just shouldn't allow it to bother me, but it's just so. I hate the dishonesty in people. It's just so disgusting. I'm not asking you to do much, but just concede these are reasonable arguments that should be addressed by physics, and you're pretending they don't need to be. I mean, 60 years in space and not one attempt to do one of the most famous experiments you can do from space, the Eddington experiment, that proved Einstein right, very famous, never successfully repeated from Earth because it's very difficult from Earth. So in space you have 400 times better resolution. It's 400 times easier to do the experiment. You don't need an eclipse, and it takes 5 minutes. 5 tiny little fucking minutes. And they haven't tried it. You think that's respectable science. That's the science you're for. Don't bother testing. Don't bother doing experiments. Don't repeat anything, for fuck's sake. Don't ever do that. Science has never taken this scale and merely done this, and then swung objects at a velocity into the scale and measured the impulse weight, because they could find out that the same speed, okay, the same velocity that you give objects, a mouse and an elephant, will produce their weights. That you will be able to move an elephant at the same speed, okay, as the mouse, and the mouse will weigh mouse weight, and the elephant will weigh elephant weight. And that speed is, in my opinion, around 1 mile an hour. And what that proves is your momentum from gravity as a constant force is your mass times 1 mile an hour. That's your momentum into the earth. Always, constantly. So lie some more. Okay, we already know how springs work. Well, again, I've done videos on springs, and guess what? You don't know shit. So you show me your video where you've analyzed how springs work, because we absolutely know as an absolute fact that springs don't give back all the energy they store. They store energy really well. They give it back really poorly. Absolute fact. We know happens when we turn the scale sideways and launch the object. So you're just lying. Where's the experiment, jackass? Where is it? The velocity gained by the object depends on the spring of the scale. No, it depends on the mass of the object. The heavier the object I put on this scale and then turn it sideways, the heavier the object, the more energy it gets from the spring. The lighter the object, the less energy I get, because the spring springs. It's not done yet. See, this has a lock on it, so you're doomed, with this mechanism. So the thing stops. When you have a high velocity, listen to it. Sorry, locked. Bang, bang. And low velocity, oh, no sound at all. Oh, how come there's no sound at all? Yeah, so when you launch something heavy, it goes slow, no sound at all. When it's going fast, big giant bang, bang. Yeah, because all the energy didn't get out of the spring, jackass. So again, you just can't be accurate or honest, so you're going to get timed out again. Because I don't have to respond to lies. You're just making shit up. Link. You get my email address is right in the description. You have some experiment, you say proves me wrong, show me, fucker. Otherwise, shove it up your ass, your fucking rhetoric that you know what a spring does, because you don't know fucking shit. You have no evidence for your lies, your fables, your nonsense. All right. If you had the money, would you try the anything experiment from space? Well, duh. I mean, I could probably do that, right? I should ask NASA, how much is it? You know, realistically, with all the satellites up there now, you should be able to contract and say, how much would it cost to have 24 hours, use of a satellite, with a camera? How much could it possibly cost? $10,000? I mean, it really can't cost that much to buy 5 minutes of camera time. You have to, obviously, it's a little bit of work. You have to move the camera to the right location, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it's a tiny extra bit. Okay, but all you're saying is, just, a half radius from the edge of the sun, point the camera there. Shouldn't blow your camera up because it's black space, of course. We see all that in the moon, you can see that there's no atmosphere, so there's no hazy sun. It's just once you look away from the sun, you're away from it. It's completely dark and no problem. That's why you don't need an eclipse, because you don't have to get rid of the atmosphere. But I'm just saying, why should I have to do it? You're not getting my point at all. There's millions of scientists, okay? They all know what science is, and science is supposed to love experiments. Well, why haven't they done this elemental, fundamental experiment from space? Why the fuck haven't they done it? And so you're not answering the question. You're not answering, why the fuck haven't they done it? But I'll give you the answer anyway. Fact is, they have done it, and they can't get a conclusive result. They keep finding, hey, it didn't work. Didn't work for some reason. So they don't publish because it didn't. They think it didn't work. When the answer is, no, it worked just fucking fine. It's just that your theory is crap. I mean, you just got to admit, they've had telescopes on the space station. They must have. Right? That they go look that shit out the window and all that. That's all they have to do the Eddington experiment. It's that fucking simple. They can do it right out the fucking window. But like I said, these people, you fanatics will never admit that your physics could be wrong. And the real problem is you can't admit this wrong because it's so catastrophically huge. I mean, these are giant wrongs. This isn't like a little bit of a flaw. This is the whole edifice of physics sort of crumbles because, you can't trust a fucking thing they said. And that's the truth of it. You can't. Their model of the atom is wrong. Do you really think there's a Higgs boson? Do you really think all of this particles pop in and out of existence? Do you really think there's antimatter? Do you really think so? They haven't even shown you a quark. And you believe in it. If they agreed with my theory, then this game would be over, because then there would be a credible physicist making the argument, and he'd get on a talk show, and he'd get here, and he'd get there, and people would listen. But that's what has to happen. Somebody with a degreed physicist has to attack his community and do it aggressively. I mean, frankly, like I said, Bruce Yearney was, I think I was getting somewhere. I think I was injecting a little doubt in his mind. And because he had done all these little mechanical experiments, and like I said, I demonstrated that the ones he did with the wooden blocks was just proving there was no kinetic energy, because, you know, an object with 4 times the kinetic energy wasn't winning. The one with 16 times the kinetic energy wasn't winning the collision. You know, you have a collision, it's got 16 times the kinetic energy, somehow it's not winning the collision. I mean, those are kind of obvious, right in your face kind of experiments. But he's not a physicist. That's, you know, part of the problem. He's just a school teacher. I mean, physicist Michael bailed out of all of this conversation, just bailed out. He was going to make the giant Newton's cradle and prove the creation of free momentum. And all of a sudden, that whole thing, he had the hardware, he had the parts, had the pieces, okay, and it was all wobbly, he said, blah, 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 he was going to fix it. But that he just disappeared. Now, you know, what is that? Did he disappear because he's uncomfortable, because he doesn't want to have to admit that the physics is bullshit? Or what? I mean, I think if he actually believed that, oh yeah, the physics looks like it's doubtable, that would intrigue him. His honest mind would say, gee, this is kind of important. We ought to shore this up. We ought to get this right, because this is really important. But they don't think it's important. They don't think it's important that, you know, Benjamin Franklin named plus and minus wrong. They don't think it's important that, you know, Maxwell says amperage goes this way and voltage goes that way. That's not important. You know, they accept lots of bullshit in their theory. And, you know, the whole idea that an electron is excreting energy when it moves, and therefore it gets tired because it's doing all of this work. They have no. They don't tell you how it's doing work. Where's your proof that electrons are doing anything at all? That they do any work? That they radiate anything? Electrons can't radiate anything. They can only reflect, just like we reflect. We absorb and we reflect. You know, we have to consume food to excrete anything. If we don't metabolize something, we're just a stick. You think this stick is doing anything? It's not doing anything. The universe goes in, the universe comes out. It doesn't do anything. Well, so I appreciate that at least you're saying, okay, it's weird that they don't bother to try, right? So at least you're getting a little piece of this argument that it's weird that they don't do anything. Again, Stern-Gerlach, famous experiment. They're claiming that an experiment where they shoot silver atoms. I mean, they heat the cesium, now they use cesium, and they shoot the, you know, because of the heat, they're bubbling off the surface, and they're shooting, like, you know, across and hitting a target. And their claim is they're going to measure the spin of an electron. They're whole silver fucking atoms. How can they possibly be measuring the spin of a fucking electron? Atoms are polarized, right? The truth is that all atoms, all by themselves, you know, with not in a whole substance, but just a single atom, most of the atoms in the periodic table are magnetic as single atoms. So obviously the fact that the atoms move in a magnetic field is a really duh kind of event. Duh. You know, because there are little magnets going through the magnetic field. And they create a pattern completely consistent with the idea that some of them are pointed this way and some of them are pointed that way and some of them are pointed this way. And they're all moving at different speeds. So you can understand the ones going very fast aren't going to turn as much. And the ones going very slow are going to turn a lot. Duh. And they're talking about electron spin instead. They call it a double slit experiment with electrons. They take a fucking crystal. And bang electrons into it at an angle and say that's a double slit experiment. There's no fucking slits. There's just a crystal. No slits. And they call that a double slit experiment. Is that honest? Is that the truth? Is that telling people the truth? To call an experiment that has no slits in it a double slit experiment? I mean, the lies, the misdescription of the evidence is so egregious. Physicists just constantly exaggerate and preposterously distort accurate description. They just never accurately describe an experiment ever. Veritasium in the video I just played. I mean, he says right in the video, oh yeah, Eddington was going to look at the light right next to the surface of the sun. That's not the experiment. Nobody can do that. Everybody knows you can't do that. So why the fuck did he say it that way? Obviously, it's not next to the surface of the sun. You have to go way far away from the surface of the sun to do the experiment. I mean, they're just such liars. I mean, if any of you people, like I said, look, okay, you haven't spent the last 15 years of your life, spending hours of every day researching these physics subjects, so you really don't know any of this shit. But I'm telling you, this is the truth. You read Eddington's journal, it's a story of failure, complete and utter failure. He couldn't be more despondent about the fact that he went all the way to Africa, spent a month climbing a mountain with a 12-foot-long telescope to do this fucking experiment, and every fucking thing that could go wrong went wrong. To the point where he says, I wouldn't stake my life on these results. To the point where he describes the very fact that he only got 10% of the quality of data. Instead of 10,000 stars per slide, he got 1,000. Those are his exact words. And yet, the experiment gets a New York Times headline saying Einstein proven right. And that's credible to you people? I'm just saying, if you know the actual history, okay, the history of Leibniz and his bullshit monad, soliton, crappy, soliton in the sense of souls, like spirits. That's a physicist talking about spirits, ghosts. Everything's made of ghosts. That's the grounding for their physics, is that kind of insanity. I mean, he was buried a nothing. Nobody would pay for his funeral, and nobody went to his funeral. Right? Because he was so discredited. And yet he's the foundation of modern physics. The man famous for saying it's the best of all possible worlds because God wouldn't have it any other way. And he said it right in the middle of the fucking plague. That's the loony that your fucking physics is built on. They use this stupid fucking formula to measure the mass of an electron. It's corrupted everything. Why don't you show me a cube of velocity? If you can square velocity, then you can cube a velocity. Go show me a cube of velocity somewhere. I'm on a planet of fucking belligerently stupid people. Like I said, you're not stupid accidentally. You're stupid on purpose. Right in my face, you're just saying, I insist on being a stupid, ignorant fuck. I will defend absolute nonsense for no good fucking reason. Merely because I am a dogmatist. I am a religious kook fanatic who will not be reasoned with. It doesn't matter if you explain that there's just no fucking evidence on the face of the earth that it takes 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast. It just doesn't matter to you that there's no evidence on this fucking planet that that's fucking true. And yet you believe anyway. All right, 2-minute warning or whatever, I guess. I guess we can erase this. It sort of makes the point, so I probably shouldn't erase it because, yes, I'll just let it fade a little bit. Yeah, well, I wasted this stuff. I might as well get rid of it. I just get rid of it in pieces at a time. That'll give me something to do. Alright. Ooh. Black swirly stuff. Cool. Alright. So, anyway. It's very disappointing. I can't find any reasonable person with which to argue these subjects. Instead, they just, as the Dispar video indicates, they just lie and force you to defend yourself against preposterous lies. And, you know, that's a waste of my time. Argue my arguments, please, not the arguments I didn't make. The ones you make up, yeah, well, ignore the arguments you just made up, that you pretended I made, and just pay attention to the arguments I actually drew a picture of. Again, you know, there's so many arguments. They're just so, again, I've drawn it so many times, but it's just so obvious what happens. I mean, you just can't deny the simple truth that you're going from point A to point B in a gravitational field. And this distance, okay, is completely irrelevant to what's going to happen. The only thing that's going to matter is the time. How fast are you going? If you go fast, you barely get bent. You go slow, you crash. And everything in between, right? And so it's clear it's just about the time between A and B. How much time was there? That's all that's going to matter. How much time did you spend getting pushed this way by a force? Right? And we're just going to say the force is about the same for these distances. And that's all that's going to matter. How long did the force push on you? How long did the wind blow on you? How long were you in the stream? swimming across a stream. I mean, it's just such an obvious argument. You're going to swim across a stream. What's going to matter, the distance or how fast you swim? Obviously, all that's going to matter is how fast. It's behaving exactly if it was like photons hitting you or if it was like paint spray. And all it's saying is there's a constant amount of paint flying through this field. And what's going to decide how much paint gets on you? The distance or the time? If you sit there and spun around circles in here and spent time in here, well, the more time I spend circling, that's going to mean I'm going to crash because I'm going to get moved sideways more. So anything that delays me, any unevenness in my motion, it's not going to be about the distance, right? I mean, if I could decide to travel the distance like this isn't going to matter. What's going to matter is how much time does that equal? And that's all that's ever going to matter is the time. You're a liar, okay? I'm just saying, you people are just so dishonest. He has a spaceship hitting the fucking lever. What are you talking about? It's momentum hitting the lever. It's an MV hitting the lever, retard. I mean, you're just so fucking dishonest. And he clearly stated the other object can't leave. The half mass can't leave at twice the velocity. He stated it. He stated the law of the lever doesn't work. I mean, you're so dishonest. Which Professor Lewin lectures were the most important to understand the basic concepts? I don't know. I don't want to talk about any of his lectures being good. Of course, after watching your current content, I know what to avoid. But there's some subjects you can mess up and some subjects you can't. But I'm just saying, in some sense, he messes up all of them. But I'm just saying, I mean, it's ballistic. Obviously, the ballistic pendulum turns out exactly like I'm pointing out. So it's a clear example. So he thinks it's okay to lose 99.94% of the kinetic energy. I think that's a pretty glaring example how kinetic energy fails. I know what to avoid. That's it. Keep yourself ignorant forever. Well, the argument is the stuff that is hyperbole. And so, like his double slits, right? He decides to do the experiments in different lectures. So he doesn't, instead of doing the single slit and the double slit in the same lecture, he puts them in separate lectures and pretends like they're separate experiments in some way, when obviously they're just about surfaces. So does he explain why there's a double maxima? No. Does he show that there's the two patterns and you have to explain the two patterns, the envelope pattern and the underlying pattern? Nothing. Doesn't say a damn word about the fact that there's two patterns in the double slit experiment. So again, you think that's honest. That's a good physics video. A kid should watch that crap. You think a kid should watch the crap where they don't show the actual pattern and say, how do you explain the actual pattern, right? That's what your obligation is to explain the actual double slit experiment, right? So you're going to do a double slit experiment, all right, and the actual pattern is going to look like this. All right? Odd number always here. Okay, this number multiplied twice minus 1 is how many is going to be here. So these are clearly nodes. And it's kind of obvious that the reason why there's a double maxima is that two nodes are overlapping. That's why there's a double maxima. Kind of obvious. Clearly there's two patterns here. There's little dots and then there's these big clumps where the dots are together. Clearly you got two patterns to explain. So you think it's honest that you say, okay, let's do infinitesimally small slits, and guess what? Then we'll just create a single slit pattern. No envelope pattern. So we'll call it a double slit experiment even though we've made the slit so small that it makes a single slit pattern. This is a single slit pattern. If I make the slits infinitesimally small, I don't have the envelope anymore. I don't have the two patterns anymore. You think that's honest. That's good education. I obviously think that's distorting and perverting perspective to sell propaganda. They're not after the truth. If they were after the truth, they would show the real experiment, and they would demonstrate too that this distance perfectly explains the location of the little dots, and this smaller distance perfectly explains the size of these nodes. And so it proves that the experiment is about surfaces. Do they ever say those words? This is a surface experiment. We have the 2 surface experiment and the 4 surface experiment. Do they say anything like that? No. So you're saying that's credible science, and obviously that's garbage. That's brain poison. All right. Let's see. I know there's lots of subjects in physics. I want to learn so I can better understand the details. Yeah, well, go ahead. I'm just saying, I've watched all of Professor Lewin's videos. You have to watch a lot of stuff to get the underlying principle. Some of it's accurate and some of it isn't. So you have to pick and choose, right? But obviously, when they start talking about a photon doing all this shit, you have to ignore that. Obviously, when they talk about an atom with a bunch of swirly shit in it, well, you have to just say, fuck that. I'm just going to, I'll have protons and electrons, and I'll recognize that the electrons, are in fixed positions. And when they're sharing an electron, it means the atoms are literally sharing it. It's in one fucking goddamn place. It's not fucking swirling shit all over the place. It's the magnetic model works. I mean, you have to fix what they're breaking. There's lots of other videos too. I mean, there's they did a whole documentary series. What the hell were those videos called? Back in like the 70s or something. And there's like 30 of them on all the different subjects. And, they're pretty good little hour-long hunks of crap. But again, as soon as they start talking about kinetic energy, you just have to say, oh, it's going to be a bunch of bullshit now. Let's see. So what's this fucker saying? Then why are you here and not studying physics? I mean, obviously, this being here will save you an awful lot of trouble, because here you're going to hear about the truth, what the actual double slit pattern looks like. And then you're going to hear about the actual radio experiments and radar experiments, where obviously the 2 sources are not intersecting. They're not waving at each other. They're on opposite sides of your antenna, and you just move your antenna back and forth and you get exactly the same pattern. Obviously no interference. So yeah, I think somebody's a lot better off listening to me, because at least I'm going to honestly describe the experiments that exist, not dishonestly explain them. It's just plain dishonest to call an experiment where you made the slits so infinitesimally small that a photon can't even get through the slit. It's smaller than the wavelength of the photon, and then call it a double slit experiment. All right. Let's see. The spaceship applied a constant force. Again, it applied a fucking goddamn impact, you fucking idiot. It wasn't tied to the lever. And even if it was, it wouldn't matter. It's applying a force which can be converted into a change in momentum. That's what force fucking is, you fucking idiot. So it's in a momentum. It's applying a momentum to one side, and it means there has to be a momentum on the opposite side, you fucker. And the whole point is it momentum conserved or isn't it conserved, you dumb lying sack of shit? And if it's conserved, then the half mass goes twice the velocity. If you don't conserve the momentum, then it goes 1.4. God, you're such a liar. All right. It's not any different, jackass. If you throw it and it sticks, it's exactly the same thing. It's an impulse is what it's going to be converted into. There's nothing else it can be converted into. The only thing the lever knows is how much pressure are you applying. How much pressure? That's all it's going to ask. It is different because the thrown object can bounce. Yes, well, we're not talking about something bouncing back. That isn't the fucking experiment, you lying sack of shit. And it doesn't happen either when you use a lever, just like it does. There's no bounce back on pulleys either. Do you think pulleys don't conserve momentum, jackass? Do you think the 1.4 thing happens with a pulley, you fucker? Force is not momentum. Well, we're done. You know, this is just, you're just wasting time. You got no fucking evidence, okay? And you're misquoting the goddamn video. You're misquoting what Steve Mould said directly in the fucking video. Ugh, people, they just keep lying. I mean, I shouldn't even have to draw that, right? I mean, it's just such a stupid premise that somehow there's a difference between, you know, having a little rocket engine and me dropping an object. How could it possibly be, could there be possibly any difference, you know, in affecting a lever? You know, whether I sit there and pretend I have a little rocket with a little, ooh, he's making a little thrust, and I just have an object with a momentum. Now, obviously, this is going to be an impulse, but we know that it has momentum, and that's all that's going to matter. And a simple argument is if this is a force and it's constant, this is going to have to move, and it's constant. There's no way to get around it. So you're just saying that this keeps moving after it hits the lever, and this stops after it hits the lever. This uses up its momentum. Its MV goes into this object, where in this case, well, the force hits the lever. Only part of it is used because it's a constant force, so it just pushes right through the lever. And obviously, if it was a constant force, you could almost argue that, well, it should create even more velocity over here. So the half mass should go 2v, okay, 2v. It should go twice the velocity that this is going. Newton said, twice the force, twice the velocity. 3 times the force, 3 times the velocity, right under the second law. Are you saying that Newton was lying or wrong? That doesn't happen? That the 2 units of force don't equal 2 units of velocity and 3 units of force don't equal 3 units of velocity? Well, go ahead. Say those words then, that Newton was wrong. He didn't even understand his own second law. Say that. Say those words. You piece of shit. I'll find this link. It's you know, it's a. You just have to remember what they called it. It was done by one of the California, you know, in collaboration with one of the Stanford or. It was one of the California colleges. You know, I think you could find it if you just type in, let's see. What the hell was it called? It was like a TV show. I mean, they must have been made for like high schoolers or something. Yeah, I just can't remember the name of the title. It wasn't like How It Works, but it was some kind of thing like it was like something you'd expect on PBS. And they went through all basically the, you know, Newtonian mechanics, all of those, like 30 videos, all just kind of dealing with, you know, Newtonian physics, no quantum crap. I mean, they show the history, you know what I mean? They show, like, so it's well animated. They show these, like, animated characters, like this is Faraday, and, you know, they show, and so they give you some history of Galileo and where he lived and what he did, and, you know, the Tower of Pizza and all that kind of bullshit. So it has some of that crap in it. lots of animations, and it starts with a college professor. He begins the lecture, and then they go to the storytelling about the history, and then he finishes, when they're done telling the story, he finishes with a statement. But I can't remember his name either. And it's narrated, the whole middle is narrated by a woman's voice, you know, very pleasant. I probably do have the link here, just have to find it in the zillions of links. Let's see, fundamentals, aerodynamics, theories of everything. No, Newton's cradle. No. Sumner Miller. No. No. Okay, not in that tab. Ooh, it's probably over here. What happens when conservation of energy? No. Engineering. Entire semester. No. Ooh. Cancer. Got some scary stuff in here. Oh, maybe I don't have the link. Thought I would after all these years. I watched them numerous times. Shit. Okay, yeah, I don't see it. Somebody must have a link somewhere, but I just don't know where it is, so tough shit for now. It's not like it's the best physics. I'm just saying there's all kinds of lecturers out there to listen to. There's a guy called Michael Young, I think it is. He's pretty good. So if you type that in, you should be able to find his lectures. I mean, obviously some of it's math and all that kind of crap, so you have to kind of try to pick and choose. You know, what the labs, you have to kind of look for the labs, the place where they actually do the experiments or something. Those videos are a little better than the, you know, the hour and a half of fucking mathematics. But, yeah, I think his name is Michael Young. Should be anyway. Oh, it's funny, I can't find anything today. Yeah, Michael Young. So, what else? Yeah, I don't know what else to say. You know, I have to say that you know, I found the Professor Lewin videos first, and so those are the ones I ended up watching the most. But the other guy from Yale is also good. What's his name? Shamir. What the fuck's his name? But anyway, they're pretty good too. I should have his name somewhere in here. But whatever. Yeah, it's all a matter of taste. You just gotta find somebody you like, I guess. Because, you know, different personalities are irritating and whatnot. But yeah, the more I've found out how they're wrong about so much, I find people just so irritating. I mean, the math and science guy, I can barely watch his videos now because he's just so full of shit. He just pontificates, you know, and it's just, that's all they do is they just proclaim the truth while they're saying, well, we don't know for certain, except we're just so fucking certain. You know, it's just disgusting. Yeah, I can't believe I can't even find that other guy's name. Huh. Must be in here somewhere. Must be. There's so much crap. Let's see if there's anybody else. Shakar. I think that's the guy's name in Yale. Shakar. Well, even the Julius Sumner Miller videos, you know, those are not terrible. You know, he plays with toys, but there's lots of experiments anyway. So if you just want to see different experiments, yeah, it's got lots of experiments in it. So that's kind of good. So you probably should watch all of his videos. There's a channel that has all of his videos. You know, Julius Sumner Miller. So if you find his videos, there's a playlist out there that has them all. You know, and they're only, whatever it is, 15 minutes long or something. Alright, I'm done looking. Yeah, well, you gotta be able to, you know, some of these things you just can't, you have to just know them as concepts, so you have to be able to imagine it. You can't really just, you know, some of it can only be reasoned through as thought experiments. But drawing does help. I mean, you draw Einstein's light clock and it becomes kind of obvious that, you know, all this bullshit they're saying is just bullshit. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, you know, you can't even be sure of the reliability of your ability to even make a photon when the surface is moving. What do I do with my pen? Somebody stole it. Okay, well, maybe this one will work. You know, so it's just that simple idea that, oh, here we have a spaceship and we're gonna do an experiment in our spaceship. And the problem is how, you know, photons have a polarization, you know, not only a frequency, you know, so you have to account for the polarization. And you're saying, well, if the surface is moving this way and I try to emit a photon, is it possible at a certain, you know, at half the speed of light, can I actually emit a photon? Because isn't it going to make the photon's polarization way out of whack? So, you know, that part becomes doubtable that you can even make a photon if the surface is moving, you know, this way at half the speed of light. Can it make a photon this way? I'd say it's pretty doubtable. But anyway, let's say you can. Well, what's the photon going to do? Well, it's going the speed of light in a straight line, and all you're saying is, well, I'm moving the surface this way. You know, so the target was here, and the target's going to move here in the time that this moves. So obviously you're not going to hit the target, right? If the target was here, and, you know, this is moving half the speed of light, well, you know, this is going to go half the distance that this travels here, and so your target's going to be here, and you're going to hit below it. But it's not really below. I mean, you can figure out it's a straight line. That's all the photon did. It did this straight line. It didn't curve down. It didn't do that. That didn't happen. Just didn't. You know, just didn't happen. All right, 2-minute warning again, I suppose. And such. But I mean, it's just so many of these arguments. They're just so. They cheat the truth. They just cheat it over and over and over again. It's just, what the fuck? We know that what reality, there's a reality, right? I could look at this experiment from over here, and I won't be able to see shit. I could look at it from over here, I'm not going to see shit. You know, I could look at it at different angles, it's going to look different. So we know it isn't different because I'm looking at it and seeing it different, right? I mean, if this thing is this shape, from my perspective, well, obviously from some other perspective, it's like this. And from some other perspective, it's like that. So what? We know that it's in one place, and we know my perspective is what's broken. I mean, my view is incomplete. You know, that's all that's happening. There's no actual distortion of the object, the thing in space. And you can know the truth here. You know the light just goes straight across. You know the surface is moving. You know the target's leaving. What's complicated? There's nothing complicated. There's no reason for any confusion. Like, oh, you know, I'm not. You can concede that you're not going to see it right. You see it happen all the time, right? I remember watching a big fire once, and you know that thing happened where the sound gets to you, right? I mean, you know, first you see the light, and then you see you hear the explosion that caused the extra flames, you know, that kind of thing. You know, you're not going to be fooled by that, right? You just recognize that it takes the sound longer to get to you than it took the light to get to you. That's no big deal. I can figure that out. Why am I pretending that, oh, the explosion happened after the light was produced? Would I believe that? No. I mean, simultaneous events happen. I'm closer to one of them, so it seems like it happened sooner here than it happened over there. Should I be fooled? Come on, it's ridiculous. And this is the physics you defend? You know, playing games like that somehow my perspective can change reality? No, your perspective can't change the reality. And it's your brain's obligation is to figure out when your perspective is distorted. You know, it happens all the time that your perspective is distorted. You know, the fish in the water, you can figure out that, oh, the right rays are being bent. The fish is actually 4 inches further over, you know, and the light got bent, and so I'm seeing the fish closer than it actually is. Oh, okay, I can figure that out. I mean, it just seems ludicrous that Einstein was essentially kind of arguing that somehow your perception controls reality, and it just doesn't. I mean, the light coming off Jupiter is whatever, 15 minutes old. We know that. And then we know that the stars you're looking at, yeah, that's, you know, if it's 1,000,000 years ago, that star could have exploded, could have done lots of things, and we're just not going to know about it, you know, for 1,000,000 years. I mean, these are kind of arguments you shouldn't even have to make, you know, to say that perception isn't reality. I mean, it's, you know, that we're capable of being confused or misled, or, you know, our brain can make up something fake. I mean, right now it's creating pixels to fill in the missing bits. Could be filling them in wrong. We can know that. Alright, 1 minute warning, I guess. Constructive engagement, please. That's what I'm making live videos for. Constructive engagement. Because people won't leave comments. I mean, I wish they would just leave comments. I wish they would make response videos, but you know, I will, you know, if I have to, I will pay people to make response videos if you think you could do it. So let me know your terms, because I'd be damn interested in somebody trying to make some sort of physics argument. You know, don't make a video just insulting. Just, you know, make your physics argument. Point out where I said something in this video that was wrong. Something meaningful. Oh, involuntary suffering. Yeah, okay. Yes, yeah, I don't know what that other comment you posted was, but you know, it was a little bit funny. Anyway, I'm a very old man, so, you know, don't waste your 20-year-old self on me. But anyway, it's a nice compliment, I guess. But we'll wait and see. The more videos, the better. The more people talking about physics, the better. So, yeah. Please talk about physics. Physics concepts. Very good. Yes, I don't know what the yes is to, but I remember what I said, so, but, yeah. Oakley doke. Yeah. Couple hours. Don't know what that means, sorry. I have no idea. Oh, all is what it means. I don't know what that means either. All with a, whatever that thing is, starry thing. Don't know what that means. Can't really see that it looks like anything. Yeah, I don't know what it's supposed to look like. Let's see. Platypus? No, I guess it's not the international symbol for a platypus. No. Man lifting box? Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's a guy lifting a box. Okay. I'm very slow at modern symbiology, so you probably have to have an explanation in parentheses for what it is you're typing. I have a hormone deficiency, low progesterone. Oh, I'm sorry, that's too bad. Kind of makes a penis useless. I suppose you could take a supplement or something, but whatever. I think it'd be easier if I just gracefully exit you from the party. I think that's probably the best solution for you. Yeah. What's your favorite animal? Well, I like cats. This happens. I've been associated with them for most of my life, and kind of extraordinary little animals, frankly. And, you know, awful lot going on in their little brains. So I find interacting with them always a pleasure. But I like bugs. You know, I have to, you know, as a kid, I was, you know, a big fan of bugs. Ah, correction. Okay. Thank you. Weird Me Too. Okay, Weird Me Too. I thought you were a woman, but you're not a woman? Let's see. I liked locusts for some reason. Yeah, they're spooky, frankly. I've seen them where they have been entirely eaten, you know, and all that's left is like the head, and it's still alive like 3 hours later. I mean, it's just, they're spooky the whole way they're constructed. They're just for reproducing, apparently. They don't eat anything, you know, because they've been in the ground for 17 years. You know, so, and you have a low testosterone. I mean, it's just such a funny thing to, you know. Anyway, won't even bother. Oh, I had a pet alligator, Charlie. And it was really quite tragic. He got his head stuck behind the water heater and, you know, died. And it was just, that was very, very sad. I mean, I nagged my mother for like a year, you know, because you go to the pet store and, holy fuck, alligators! And I was like, oh, I gotta have one, you know, and I just kept nagging and nagging and nagging and nagging and nagging. Oh, I gotta have an alligator. So it really was, and I just was so, it's one of those parts of, you know, that life where it just kills you, and you're just, these little tragedies happen, and it's such a silly tragedy, but it was just a giant tragedy. I had a turtle I would see every year, you know, every single year. I had a little pen in my backyard. I put some turtles in, and I'd get him every year. And he only had 3 legs, and you know, something had bitten off one of his legs. And you know, his name was Charlie. And then one year, you know, when the stream was frozen over, I saw him underneath the frozen ice, and I said, "Oh fuck, poor old Charlie." And that was really. The other Charlie. I named everything Charlie for a while. That wasn't me. Oh, okay. I can't tell you from them sometimes. You know, the fake accounts are a little hard to keep track of. My mistake. Let's see. TJ's cat sadly died recently. I personally could never go through having an animal I care for die. Yes, well, that's why I'm all done with it, because I've had to do it. I buried probably 50 cats in my life. Yeah. And they weren't all mine, of course, but I just mean I had to take care of my neighbors. Had a whole bunch of cats, well, whatever. And I was, you know, and yeah, every one of them is terrible. And you know, the ones that I've been close, you know, that I lived with for 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years, it's just terrible. I mean, the first cat I actually had was, her name was Kitty, and you know, she was black and white, and she was just so devoted. No matter where I went, the cat followed me, and it was just, you know, she slept on top of me every night. Right on my chest. And every morning she'd wake me up by putting her little paws on my face, you know, and she'd start getting impatient. She would go for my eyeballs. And it was just kind of funny, but she wanted her tender victuals, you know. Anyway, it was just, yeah, And she got hit by a car. It was just, I was just, yeah. Life is insufferable. You know, butterflies get, beat up pretty bad, you don't realize it. Some of them are all pristine. Okay, well that's a new one, but they get all tattered and torn, and it's and then the praying mantises just wipe out so many. I mean, a praying mantis eats an incredible number of bugs in its life. It's one season of life. Yeah, but yeah, I could never have a pet again. Oof. No. Shudder. Everything makes me shudder. People really should have to live to be 65 years old and then go back to being 20 years old and see if they're in the mood to have kids. Anyway, hey, just wanted to pop in here on a temp account. Apparently, McToon is being told lies about you on Twitter. Well, what's new? There's no news about people lying about me. So that's old news. I make arguments, okay? So it's, people can argue me, they can insult me, they can make false accusations about something I've done that I haven't fucking goddamn done. And I'll do, like I said, I'm willing to make every part of my life open to anyone who's got any accusations to make. I'll make every single thing, every account I've ever had, I'll give you access to, because I haven't done anything in my existence on this planet that is inappropriate. Just haven't. I haven't stolen anything from anybody, haven't lied to anybody, haven't deceived anybody, hasn't seduced anybody, haven't done anything to anybody. But anyway, but it's beside the point. I make arguments. People should make counter arguments. Is that too complicated? Right? This video was full of physics arguments. I'm pleading for people to make counter arguments to the physics arguments. And that's what they don't do. Explain why in 60 years in space they haven't pointed a camera outside the sun and videotaped a fucking star. Not sure if you care, but I got a few likes. I don't know what that means, but I guess I don't care. Hello, Mojo. I had a friend in school called Mojo. I hated that name. It's like, fuck that. Yeah. His name was John McDonald, so they called him Mojo. It was just, yeah. But they called me Mushface, so, what the fuck. I really don't have if I have a face, you could call me, Skeletor or something, but Mushface, you call me Long Face, you call me Big Forehead Guy, call me lots of things, but Mushface, didn't make much sense. But you get the name you're stuck with. They called me Maggot for a while because in biology one day they were playing a video, I couldn't help myself, right? So there was a picture of maggots eating something. I went, ooh, maggots, and so I ended up with the name Maggot. It was kind of funny. Yeah, maggots are really hard to like. The most unlikable creature on earth, a maggot. had 1 killed, 4 injured, and his name was Mojo. He also got hit. Your grandfather's name was Mojo. That's pretty funny. But anyway, yeah, I don't know how long ago that was. I guess school shootings have really been going on for like 20 years now, right? It just wasn't a thing when I was a kid. You never even school shooting. Even kids getting kidnapped wasn't a thing. I mean, none of this was a thing. You know, you didn't. You know, I would leave our house, you know, at 7 in the morning. I wouldn't come back until 10 at night, and my parents didn't, you know, they didn't worry, like, oh, he's going to get kidnapped. But I guess they didn't worry I'd get kidnapped just because who the fuck would want me, right? But, you know, it was funny. Yeah, Columbine really was the first one I ever became aware of anything like that. It was just so bizarre. I'm pissed off. I'm going to go kill some kids. I mean, that's just too fucking stupid. Yeah, I just don't know why I hadn't heard of any of these others if they existed. I don't. You think, you know, I used to watch the news. You think it would have been on the news. But really don't want to do the, you know, profiles in Psycho Killer thing here. Oh dear, he's going to keep doing it. Whatever. Got injured by a shrapnel. Well, what the hell? They had grenades or something? No, don't answer. I really don't want to do this, whatever this is. That's, you know. Let's not do this. Don't really think it is interesting. I'm not even too sure it's true, but whatever. Well, I don't think it's amazing it's being taught because obviously it's amazing it ever got off the ground. I mean, the history is just hilarious. There's just no fucking evidence that this is a viable description of reality. And the only evidence that exists is so superficial that a smart person should be able to figure out, oh, that's superficial. The fact that bullets do more damage to structures, in terms of fracturing and breaking the atoms, is perfectly understandable because of how quickly they're imposing all of their energy. And things can't react quick. Quick breaks things. Slow, yeah, you can take it and, it's like a trampoline can accept, or anything can accept the energy over a period of time, but it can't accept it if it's too quick. It breaks. But anyway, it's just, but I mean, it's just so bad in terms of, it breaks the law of the lever. It destroys any kind of notion of reality in the sense that somehow, 5 horses create 25 times the work or something. That somehow all you have to do is, 5 times the velocity is somehow, this amazingly extra amount of force and power when it isn't. But it's weird that these college students can see through religion but fail for something arguably dumber. Yeah, well, that's the part that is, like I said, that's just showing that religion isn't dead for the scientists. They're still seeking, a comforting fable. So they want a special universe where they can believe special things happen. I guess. They don't want to live in a buggerverse. Well, I suppose it is getting late, so I probably should just get the hell out of here. And so maybe I will do that. So anyway, a little bit interesting. Let's see, even the fact that they don't want to refer to energy as force, weight, pressure, heat. Yes, that's the surprising one too, is that they don't make the connection that they're all the same thing. That heat's momentum. You directly convert momentum, linear motion, momentum into heat. You can do it. And, the fact that they don't even get that is just, what the fuck? And the heat's completely proportional to the momentum in. Momentum in, heat out. And obviously conservationally. And, just too ridiculous. Alright, so I did my job and such, and so till the next time, whatever, don't take any wooden nickels or whatever. Good luck. Yeah, good luck. Yeah, that'll help you, right? Best wishes. Yeah. Don't get horribly killed or disabled. That'll help, right? Yeah, I said so. Do it because I said so. Don't get killed because I said so. Yeah, it's a good reason not to. Don't do anything profoundly stupid. Yeah, how about that one? I'll say that. That's the best advice I can give. Don't do anything profoundly and obviously stupid. Okay. So, till the next time, and such, and so forth, and whatnot.